Okay, top 10 quarterbacks here. Yes, I will be giving my top 10 quarterbacks. First, I should set up why I'm going to be doing a list like this for the next week or so. I am currently, as of recording this video, I'm actually recording this before the draft has happened. But when I'm going to be airing this video, it will be either during or right after my wedding. So I will be on my honeymoon, have to get some content out. So I figured, why not top 10 list? Those could be fun. So, top 10 quarterbacks. I'm just going to mention before we finally get into the list, I will not be talking about any rookies throughout this. You have to have played at least one snap in the NFL to qualify. So without further ado, let's get into the top 10 quarterbacks list. I suppose I should start off actually with the honorable mentions. Consider guys like Jared Goff and Brock Purdy, who I think are very good, just didn't quite make the list. Sam Darnold, I did consider, but I figured only 1 year. That was the reason why I didn't put him on the list. Bryce Young gets an honorable mention for how well he played towards the end of last year, but it's just not a big enough sample size. And CJ Stroud ultimately does not make the list. Didn't think it was bad last year. There's just, quite frankly, 10 quarterbacks I like better, so that's why those aren't on the list. Number 10, I went with Kyler Murray, a quarterback who I just think is, he had a good year last year. He's definitely up and down, and that's why I can't quite put him too much higher. But, the ups are still really good. I think, unfortunately, the 2 down games he had were kind of the 2 most important games against Seattle, which, at the time, we didn't think the Rams were going to make the playoffs, and we thought it was going to be either Seattle or Arizona. And then, the Rams beat the Bills, and kind of that broke everything. But ultimately, he didn't play great in those games. I thought he had a very good season, though. And again, if you can just get more consistency, he is definitely someone who could climb the rankings. Still had a good enough year. I decided to keep him at 10. Number 9 is Geno Smith, a quarterback who I just feel like is underrated and consistently is underrated. Again, it's worth mentioning. I know there's going to be some box score stats people will throw out there about certain players, but I don't really pay attention to box score stats because ultimately, they couldn't really block for him at all. Yes, he had weapons, but there's only so much you can do when you're in a certain situation. And I think that, box score stats are team stats, which the quarterback has that biggest hand in, right? But it still is team stats. And I think that Geno Smith, the way that he can run an offense, but also can make plays when something breaks down, is really impressive. And I think the Raiders are going to be pleasantly surprised with how well he plays next year. Number 8, I decided to go with, hey, maybe you could argue this is a homer pick. I don't know. But I'm going with the quarterback of my favorite team, Baker Mayfield, who definitely, again, there is, every quarterback here has their flaws. And for Mayfield, he definitely will at times get a little bit too trigger happy. Definitely is the kind of guy who has never seen a throw he can't make. But honestly, he makes about 99% of them, right? He is this incredible thrower of the football. The arm talent is through the roof, and he moves very well as well. There were stretches last year where he was the offense. I mean, they didn't, with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans getting injured, he had to do a ton, and he was able to pull it off well. So, yeah, I thought he played great. Going to have another offensive coordinator, and we'll see how that goes. Number 7, I went with Jalen Hurts, and he's someone who's kind of tough to exactly define where he should be. I do think that this would have been a hot take, putting him at 7 prior to the winning the Super Bowl, but I was kind of putting all these guys in this tier of, the guys who have made this list and a few of the honorable mentions as well. And it's kind of just like, well, Hurts has won a Super Bowl. Let's just bump him up to 7 and be at the top of this tier because of that, right? So could you argue that Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield on a given Sunday has been better? Sure, but they haven't necessarily been better in the conference championship or the Super Bowl because only Hurts has been there, and he's both times played great in the Super Bowl. So, 1 Super Bowl MVP. So I feel like that you got to give him props for that. And I think he's still a good quarterback. The deep ball to A.J. Brown is very good. Obviously, his mobility is very good. He's not perfect, but ultimately, again, a quarterback you can win a Super Bowl with. Number 6 is Herbert, who's kind of the opposite with Hurts, right? Because I think that, the regular season, if you had said you thought Hurts had a better year than Herbert, it would have been an insane take because it just wasn't true. Herbert was way better in the regular season than Hurts. Herbert did not play well in the playoff game. And while I think that the first playoff game he played wasn't really his fault, the defense just couldn't get a stop for the life of him, I thought he played all right. Actually, I played well in that game as a whole, but ultimately definitely played bad in the second one. And, I mean, football's a team sport, but people are going to say, hey, 0-2. in the playoffs, still yet to get a playoff win. He did essentially win a playoff caliber game when they beat the Raiders in a, win and you're in, lose and you're out situation. But ultimately, I just find him a really efficient player who can make the difficult throws, and yes, has had a bad playoff game, but ultimately, I do think the issues have been around, have primarily been outside of his control. Not to say he's perfect. Again, I don't have him in the top 5, but I do think that, to me, he is the 6th best quarterback in football. Number 5, I'm going Jayden Daniels, and this might be too early. I will fully admit that this could blow up in my face if he has a down year. I wasn't quite this high on CJ Stroud last year when but I did have him in the top 10. He fell off. Similar thing could happen, but Daniels was better than CJ Stroud was in his rookie year. Daniels was amazing, and by pretty much every metric was a top 5 quarterback in football last year. The only knock against him was it was just 1 year, and can you fully, buy in after just one season? But honestly, again, it's not like he went to just this firepower offense. I mean, the offense played well in his absence, so it was better than we realized, but still, he was a massive contributor, and the biggest thing I look at is just the running game. I mean, it's just a game-breaking tool in his tool belt, right? The mobility that he has in that Tampa Bay playoff game. I mean, the Buccaneers had a real chance to win the game. It was 3rd down. Kalijah Cansey gets through, has a chance to tackle Daniels, and they would have had to settle for a go-ahead field goal. The Buccaneers would have had about a minute left to see if they could answer, but Daniels just made the guy miss, got the 1st down, and they kicked the field goal as time expired. It's that he can throw down the field. The downfield passing is ridiculous. The way he can read plays is ridiculous. Yeah, he's a ridiculous quarterback. So there's been a question I feel like usually there's a clear-cut top 4 in some order, and then the question is who's 5? For me, I agree with that, but I do have Daniels as my 5th. Number 4, I am going to go with the reigning MVP, Josh Allen. And I should mention that 2, 3, and 4, I really think you could pick whoever. I don't think there's been a clear differentiator between 2, 3, and 4. Ultimately, I go with Allen at 4. It's interesting. So 2 years ago, I argued that he should have won MVP. The reason he didn't was because he had high interception totals, even though he wasn't horrible in turnover-worthy play rate. It's just that he got very unlucky with some of the passes getting intercepted and things of that nature. This year, he was about the same in turnover-worthy play rate, but the luck went the other way, and he got very lucky with turnovers, and that's ultimately why he won the MVP award. So I guess he deserved an MVP either way. Finally gets one. He's amazing. I mean, again, I'm not going to bash Josh Allen. Does he put the ball in harm's way more than the next 2 guys on this list? Yeah, he does, and that's ultimately what the differentiating factor was. He also makes more positive plays than anybody in this list. The positive, when he has one of those games, it's just impossible to defend against. So yeah, I'm going to have him at 4. You could have him at 2 if you want to. Some people might have him at 1. I don't know. He was MVP last year, but I'm going to keep him at 4 for now. Number 3, I am going Joe Burrow, one of the quarterbacks who has made a Super Bowl. Of course, that was a couple years ago, and he wasn't even amazing in that run, although he did make the plays when he had to. I thought Burrow was ridiculous last year, and to me, he was if I had an MVP vote, I would have gone with my number 2 quarterback at 1, my number 3 quarterback at 2, and my number 4 quarterback at 3, which sounds weird, but I'm sure you understand why. Joe Burrow was ridiculous last year. The points, it reminded me of Drew Brees' seasons when they went 7-9 over and over again. The defense couldn't stop anything. The offense had to score every possession, and on some games they did. Joe Burrow, I mean, the stretch they went on to have a chance at the end. I mean, they were still mathematically alive the final game of the season. Ultimately, week 1, Joe Burrow has to figure himself out, and that's kind of, the issue. That's part of the issue. That was the difference in them missing the playoffs last year. But the insane efficiency, how often was pushing the ball down the field? But the difference between him and Brees was Drew Brees would put the ball in harm's way because he had to. He had to take chances. That's what they needed to do. Burrow somehow didn't do that. Burrow's efficiency, really low turnover-worthy play rate while making these incredibly clutch plays and difficult plays consistently, it was something else. And yeah, I thought he was remarkable. Number 2, I am going with Lamar Jackson, the player who I would have said should have won MVP. If I had a vote, I would have given it to him. Although, again, If I was in charge, Lamar would have 2 MVPs and Allen would have 1. It's just the Allen and Lamar ones would have been different. But yeah, again, similar to Burrow, I think Lamar was just a little bit more efficient. His plays were just a little bit better, and he, the average value of a play was a little bit higher. And again, incredibly good efficiency. He was best at turnover-worthy play rate, despite having all of these, high degree of difficulty plays and really successful plays. Was he in a good situation? Yes, but I don't think Burrow and Allen offensively were playing for Carolina out there. Poor Carolina fans. They're always the team I go to for just for a bad organization. Sorry, but you agree. Bryce Young had to do it all himself last year. Yes, Lamar was in a very good situation. That factored in. I still think he's the second best quarterback in football. But like I said, if you want to argue Burrow or Allen, I'm not going to argue against you because they're all three so great. But you just can't put any of them at number 1 because that, of course, is Patrick Mahomes. What else needs to be said? The guy's won 3 Super Bowls. He's been to 5. And he's been a starter for 7 years. Like, that's ridiculous. That had they won the Super Bowl this year, the average season would be winning a Super Bowl, or at least every other year they're winning a Super Bowl. It's ridiculous what they're doing. And again, football is a team sport. It's not all Mahomes, but man, is it a lot Mahomes, right? And I really think too, what doesn't get talked about is just how bad of a situation that was. Out of the top 4 quarterbacks, he was easily in the worst offensive situation. Defense was good, not elite, but good last year. But they figured out 3 weeks left in the season. Let's just put our guard, our superstar guard, at tackle because that's the best thing we have. And now they have a backup guard in because they had to move their guard to tackle. And Joe Thuney is still a guard trying to play tackle. That's still difficult. Not a great receiving core. In fact, it's the worst receiving core via PFF grades in the modern era to make a Super Bowl. So that's pretty crazy. Because Travis Kelce did take a step back, and he was still able to keep it a top 10 offense all year. If you look at points per drive, yes, the overall points per game was down because they had these long possessions because they can't pass the ball down the field. Xavier Worthy got going late in the year, and that certainly helped. But Mahomes is the best. We know Mahomes is the best. If you're paying attention, I think you agree. There are some people who disagree, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But ultimately, I think Mahomes is the best. But yeah, those are my top 10 quarterbacks. I'm sure you will have opinions, so let me know in the comments below. Who do you think I left out? Who should have made the list that didn't? What's maybe your list? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.